Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Yang Mulia Syamsul Bahri Haji Kamis, Pesuruhjaya Interim Cybersecurity Brunei. Yang Mulia Mr. Dr Steven Wong, Mr. Freddy Tan, Wakil daripada Association of Information Security Professionals, tuan-tuan, puan-puan, serta para hadirin hadirat yang dihormati sekalian. Salam sejahtera serta selamat datang ke Majlis Taklimat dan Panel Penubuhan Persatuan Keselamatan Siber Brunei Darussalam yang dianjurkan oleh Cybersecurity Brunei dan ITPSS Sendirian Berhad. Sebelum memulakan taklimat ini, dijemput Yang Mulia Muhammad Hanif bin Jumat untuk membacakan surah Al-Fatihah bagi memberkati majlis pada pagi ini. Majlis mempersilakan.
Astaghfirullahalazim, astaghfirullahalazim, astaghfirullahalazim. Asyhadu an la ilaha illallah wa asyhadu anna Muhammadar Rasulullah. Subhanallah, walhamdulillah, wa la ilaha illallah, wallahu akbar. Wa la haula wa la quwwata illa billahil aliyyil azim. Illa hadratin Nabi Mustafa Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam wa alihi wa ashabihi kiram. Al-Fatihah. A'udzu billahi minasyaitonir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki yaumiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdinas siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta 'alaihim ghairil maghdubi 'alaihim waladdallin. Amin.
Amin, amin, ya Rabbal Alamin. Untuk memulakan majlis pada pagi ini, dengan penuh hormat serta takzim mempersilakan Yang Mulia Syamsul Bahri Haji Kamis, Pesuruhjaya Interim Cybersecurity Brunei untuk memberikan ucapan alu-aluan. Dengan ini, majlis mempersilakan.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirrahmanirrahim. Wassalatu wassalamu ala anbiya mursalin. Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. I think first and foremost, I would like to reiterate that the name of the association might not be Brunei Darussalam Cybersecurity Association as displayed here. This is just for a start. Hopefully by the end of the session, I think after second or third day, inshallah, all of you or some representatives from various sectors attending this session will come up with a suitable name, inshallah, with the help of our consultants as well. Okay, I think first and foremost, I would like to thank all of you, government civil servants, business and corporate leaders, academia, and also cyber and IT security professionals from Negara Brunei Darussalam, representing, I think, business and corporate organizations, especially CIIs or Critical Information Infrastructure, and other organizations as well. And then I would like also to thank our colleagues from AiSP, Association of Information Security Professionals, namely Dr. Steven Wong. He's currently the Advisory Council member of AiSP and also the past president of AiSP itself. I will let him introduce himself later on in his session. And also Mr. Freddy Tan. I've known Freddy here since his Microsoft days. He's a current member of AiSP at the moment. And then I understand that he's now totally devoting his time with the AiSP. Again, Freddy will share more of his details. I think just to inform everyone that CSB or Cybersecurity Brunei is actually committed to develop the cybersecurity ecosystem in Negara Brunei Darussalam, befitting the mission of MTIC or Ministry of Transport and Interconnection. Their mission states that they want actually Brunei Darussalam to become a connected smart nation, and whereas CSB's mission is to secure this connected smart nation. Initially, the idea of forming up this cybersecurity association came actually from our interaction, my interaction with the Commissioner for Cybersecurity of Singapore, and also the Chief Executive of Cybersecurity Agency of Singapore, Mr. David Koh. This is actually one of the ways that he mentioned that, in order to develop the cybersecurity ecosystem within any country or states in a more inclusive manner. Initially, of course, we had been trying to do this within ITPSS, even before CSB was set up. ITPSS, IT Prototype Security Services, if any of you is not familiar yet, it's a government-owned company which had been set up since 2003. Now the role or the responsibilities actually taken by CSB, but CSB will be committed to support the setting up of this association, at least for the first few years, through funding of the association, for example, and any other things that we can actually do. Of course, this will be channeled through ITPSS as well. Hopefully, within these next few days, the association will be, it will not be set up, but there will be a pro tem committee selected from a few of representatives attending this session. And then they are the ones who will charter the direction of this association, of course, with the assistance of AiSP, having experienced similar setup, I think, for many years already in Singapore, and had their own success stories all this while. And then we are also hoping once the association is set up, it can actually be involved regionally as well, which temporarily ITPSS will be representing Brunei in the Southeast Asia Cyber Consortium, which the MOU or the Memorandum of Understanding will be signed soon this November. In interim manner, ITPSS will be representing Brunei. But of course, once the association is set up, then that association will be representing Negara Brunei Darussalam in this cyber consortium. I will not talk much about this. AiSP through Dr. Steven Wong and also Freddie Tan will deliberate more, and then hopefully you guys will contribute to the discussion, because the interest is actually for all of us to develop the cybersecurity system in Negara Brunei Darussalam, and your contribution in whatever sector that you are from will be highly appreciated. Okay, with that, I will leave the floor later on to Stephen and also Freddie. Okay, thank you very much. And wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh.
All right. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming down this morning to this session. I think hopefully I have the privilege of maybe introducing to you AiSP Association of Information Security Professionals, actually to share the experience, because I think learning from CSB and ITPSS, there's intentions for Brunei to set up your own cybersecurity association. And we are no stranger to that, because if you look at AiSP, actually we are relatively young as well. We started in 2008. Okay, before our cybersecurity agency was formed. We started from there and then all the way to now. So I thought sharing the experience of AiSP, the programs that we run, can give everybody maybe some insights to what an association can really do for the ecosystem. And really, end of the day, later on I'll mention, it's down to the individuals, the volunteers that actually help out in the association, as well as how you create partnerships with corporates, with the private sector, with the public sector, as well as academia. So maybe before I do this introduction to AiSP, just a brief introduction about myself. So yes, I'm actually the immediate past president for AiSP, and also currently I'm the advisor to the EXCO and part of the advisory council. I spent a lot of time on AiSP, but AiSP don't pay me any salary, so I will not survive if I just work for AiSP. So my full-time job is actually in academia. So I'm actually associate professor at Singapore Institute of Technology. So it's a young university in Singapore as well. But in that university, I actually started Singapore's first cybersecurity degree program. So we have saw through the development of training and education as well. And currently, this degree program also trains our Singapore military for the cyber defense. So yeah, we have come a long way. I'm no strangers to starting associations or chapters. So unfortunately, I didn't start AiSP. That happened before my time. But I actually helped develop or start some of the associations or chapters in Singapore, which includes, if you look at the Cloud Security Alliance Singapore, actually I was part of the Proton team that started that. I also was in part of the Proton team. I was actually the co-chair to set up CREST Singapore. So if you all know CREST, it's essentially a pen testing accreditation and certification program. All right. So not only that, I also help stand up install cybersecurity standards. I'm also currently the deputy chairman of our cybersecurity coordinating committee under the Singapore Standards Council, because as you know, cybersecurity as a core area is difficult because actually without cybersecurity, it cuts across all layers. It's not only IT, it's every adjacent service sectors, be it your CIIs, be it your service industry, hospitality industry, everything covers cybersecurity. So there needs to be a way of coordinating both cyber as a core, as well as the related sectors. So that's what we do in the coordinating committee. So quite a lot of experience myself. And this time around, I hope I can also leverage some of my experience to actually work together with CSB and ITPSS to set up a association here in Brunei. And hopefully there are partnerships between this new association and AiSP that we can work together and actually jointly build up a safer cyber space or ecosystem within ASEAN, right? So now let me give an introduction of AiSP, all right? Just to clarify, the whole part about AiSP you will see is not actually a marketing deck, okay? It's mainly to share our experiences and see what are some of the things that the new association might like to also learn from or create as well, because there's so many things, right? The thing is, which are the ones that you want to prioritize, and where is it possible for partnerships to occur, whether with AiSP or other associations, really doesn't matter, but how do you jumpstart the whole process? Okay, because it's very important to have a very good cybersecurity ecosystem, because it benefits not only the professionals, it benefits the various sectors, individuals, companies as well. So it's actually a very impactful thing. So background on AiSP. So AiSP, we were actually established in 2008. So way before Cybersecurity Agency of Singapore was set up. That was in 2013, 2014. And actually the whole thoughts about cybersecurity happened way before that. So before 2008, there was actually multiple pockets in Singapore, volunteers, people that were interested in cybersecurity. Back then, some of them called that information security, some of them called it IT security. There are various groups. And what happens in 2008, there was an effort by our Infocom Development Authority, IDA, because back then there wasn't CSA yet. So there was IDA that looks after ICT sector. So what happened then is they worked together with the Singapore Computer Society to say, okay, is there something we can do really to build an area in cybersecurity? All right. So that is when they actually said, okay, let's formate a association. So very much like yourselves, the journey you're going through now, to see what we can do to help elevate, okay, the cybersecurity posture of Singapore. So that happened in 2008. So really the vision for the association is to build a safe cyberspace supported by a strong and vibrant cybersecurity ecosystem. So the whole mission of the association is really to help build that ecosystem, because it's not one sector, it's not one area, it's actually everybody coming together, right? Put down all the, because if you look at private sector has their own boundaries. A lot of things are driven by profit, P&L, profit and loss. Government sector, there are limitations because sometimes it can be a bit political, or sometimes when a government do certain programs, there's a certain thought about it, right, that limits what it can do. So as an association, we are very good in a way because we are very unbiased. You can support government, you can support private sector, you can support individuals, you can support companies. So that helps gel the entire ecosystem. And really what we wanted to do is really support the developing the industry technical competency, so build up the strength of the individuals, of the companies in cybersecurity. Then as a profession, how do we promote the integrity and the status of the cybersecurity professionals in Singapore? Because back then in 2008, cybersecurity was not a hot topic yet. I think at that point of time, if you talk about data analytics, AI, it was a hot topic. Talk about cybersecurity, everybody say call center, correct? So it has come a long way. Recently, I think if you look at the past decade, somewhere about 2010 to 2020, cybersecurity took another connotation. Okay, it became whenever there is a breach, or somebody will say the cybersecurity professional never do their job. Okay, not knowing how many times we have the defense against breaches. So there's a need actually to really promote that status of a professional. Also, you have a problem. Everybody don't want to get blamed. They don't want to join the industry. They don't want to join the cybersecurity industry. Nobody protects the infrastructure. We have an issue. So it's really driving and promoting that status. Okay, and of course you want the integrity, because cybersecurity is a very strange occupation. When nothing happens, nothing bad happens, nobody praise you for anything. All right. When something bad happens, everybody blames you for it. So strangely enough, it seems as if you are doing nothing every day. But that's not true. As a cybersecurity professional, we know. All right. Every day we are protecting against breaches. Every day. Nobody sees that. So I always equate a cybersecurity professional to a goalkeeper in soccer. Right. He protects. One goal, everybody say, "Wow, he never do this, he never do that," as if he know beforehand. Right. He does not. Right. So we really want to celebrate the profession as a whole, and really then look at how we can actually spread the knowledge, work together with partners to build up a strong ecosystem. Right. All right. So this is a busy slide. All right. Because if you look at it as a house, this is what AiSP does. Right. And I would actually work together with CSP and ITPSS as well. I think one of the key things for a new association is to develop your own house. All right, what in here is key, all right, for you all to drive. And slowly you can build the house to a building to even more. All right, of course, we didn't start AiSP this way. Okay, we didn't have this complete house. Okay, we have a smaller house. Okay, we focus on particular initiatives. Slowly the house grew bigger and bigger and bigger, and there will come a time where we say that this house is too big. Okay, you cannot go anymore because it becomes unsustainable. So we are now still in the growth phase, but we are slowing down our growth, because if you look here, we actually cover quite a lot. And I'm going to mention actually all of these various programs you see in blue, right? Because individually, each one of them play a part, okay, of building this house. Any one of these blocks at the bottom, if it's not there, right, a house becomes weaker, right? So if you look at the systematic way we build this, the vision, as I said, is really to build a safe cyberspace supported by a strong and vibrant cybersecurity ecosystem. But how can the association do that? What is our mission? Okay, how can we support that vision? And if you look at it, just now, as I mentioned, as an association, we are actually we are seen as a neutral party to everybody, all right, be it within Singapore, the private sector, the public sector, the academia, all right, but also regionally, globally, correct? There's no political tension. We are very free to, that's why I think recently last week in the Singapore International Cybersecurity Week, I was asked to moderate a session between US and China. It's good because we are an association, so I don't take a stance, right? So if they ask, oh, so what is Singapore's government stance on that? I'll say, I'm not the government, I'm just an association. Whatever what you all do will impact our community. But yeah, so we become a very neutral ground, which is very good. So we really want to be the pillar for information security professionals and profession in Singapore, right? And in order for us to do that, we have our key strategic trust. Okay, and the keywords are very simple. Okay, because you need that in order to drive what you want to do. Simple keywords so that everybody are aligned. We call that advance, connect, and excel. Okay, you take the first three letters, it means ACE. All right, so we actually created this framework, ACE, where we want to advance. What do we mean advance? It's advance the skills and the knowledge of the individuals, the corporations, the ecosystem. So under that umbrella is really how do you promote awareness, skills, knowledge, training, all right? Which later on I'll mention has multiple items within it, like the body of knowledge, like certification programs, like how do you run knowledge series, build out special interest groups, right? So that is advancing. Then after that, you have the connecting. How do you connect the entire ecosystem together? Because end of the day, cybersecurity is as such, as long as one weak link, that weak link becomes the exploit. So in order for things to work out, you really need everybody to come together, right? So Connect is really bringing everybody here. So if you look at it, we have our local ecosystem, which has our corporate partners, all the companies in Singapore, be end user or vendor. We have academic partners. Later on, I'll mention as well, we have quite a strong academic partnerships with all the IHLs. We also can now work at certain, how do you call it, sectors, or because there's a talent shortage in cyber, where is it that we need to tap to promote it as a profession? That's why we have things like ladies in cyber, right? Because in our demographics, what happens is we realize even though the population for ladies and guys is about 50-50 in Singapore, the cybersecurity talent pipeline back then has about 90% males, 10% females. What it means is that we are losing a source of talents. How do we then attract them to come into the profession, right? Then, of course, we have the SMEs, okay? Because if you look at it, the SMEs, the small and medium enterprises, they are very important. They don't have the resources that the big MNCs, the big companies have to protect themselves, but they are a critical part of the supply chain. Okay, when you have a big company, they outsource a lot of things, subcontract. The SMEs are the one who actually becomes that weak link. So how do you raise and elevate their cybersecurity posture? And of course, the regional ecosystem is then very important to us as well. And this is one of the key focus that after I stepped down as a president of AiSP, actually one of my key focus is to drive regional collaborations and build up the regional ecosystem, which is why I think when this opportunity came to work together with CSB and ITPSS to set up the new association, yeah, I took that on. Just to let you know, these 3 days I'm actually on leave from my main job. So yeah, it's something that I think is very meaningful to do. So if you look at that, why it's important is because you look at this, you can imagine today I have a house, my own house, all right? And I build my house, I put all the strong locks, everything. I have a wonderful secured house. Okay, but I live in a neighborhood that is not as secure. Everybody there has their house broken into, has cybersecurity, have breaches. All right, sooner or later, I will not be safe. Correct. So the whole point about regional collaboration is how do we work together to make the entire ASEAN a safe region? Because by working together, this helps not only us, but the entire region. All right. So that is in Connect. So how do we bring together all the different partners locally and regionally? Then lastly, excel. How do we create excellence, okay, in the profession? Because as I mentioned just now, cybersecurity like the goalkeeper, all right? Everybody kind of publicize things that you didn't do correct. I wouldn't say not do correct. It's just things that will happen, correct? So how do we actually publicize, or how do we promote it as a profession that has meaning? I mean, it really is defending that entire ecosystem. So we have the Cybersecurity Awards that helps to elevate that, to say that exactly what are professionals doing. So we are not drinking coffee, putting a hoodie, doing nothing every day. Okay, every day is really sometimes no eat, no sleep to protect infrastructures. All right, that is in one. Then the other one is really in the profession as well, because now you are trusted, correct, to help protect infrastructures. There will come a point, and it will happen, that you have some black sheeps within your community. All it takes is for that few to create a big news, to say, oh, so-and-so cannot be trusted, or professionals cannot be trusted. The whole ecosystem breaks as well. So how do you then validate, okay, professionals? Because there are people put trust, companies, organizations, individuals, put trust of their assets into these individuals. How do you make sure that they are up to standard, that their ethics is correct, which is why we have validated schemes as well, right? And of course, lastly is how do we then also recognize students, right, in their contributions towards the ecosystem, right? So all this I'll mention in a lot more details in the following slides, right? The whole point of sharing all this is, I don't think the new association can do all this at one shot. Okay, we took about 14 years to reach where we are at. Okay, and a lot of the activities here happened after 2016. So we're in the last 6 years, but we needed a foundation before we can move on, right? So I'll mention some of those. So these programs that I'm going to share with everyone is just for your reference, something that if you are participating in the focus groups on the next 2 days, something for you to think about, all right? And also maybe later on, we'll be writing some Slidos. Give your suggestion. Which one do you think is things that we should prioritize? Of course, the wish list is everything one shot, one to do, tomorrow we get it. But I think we do need to prioritize for new association. What are the key points that you think will be useful? All right, so let me just go through I think we skip one slide, yes. Let me just go through the structure of the association. All right, so the association, our core strength, okay, or our core manpower is actually for free. So majority of the people who are working, all right, or if you count the head count, majority of the head count are volunteers. Okay, so in the association, we have an advisory council that sits on top. It provides essentially a strategic guidance to what the association do. This was something that was added very recently. So we didn't start off with an advisory council. It was only when we became so big that just now, as I mentioned, you have many, many activities. Then there's a time to really strategize what is required, what makes sense, right? Which is why the advisory council was formed in the last 2 years, all right, to really help provide that guidance. We also have AiSP Exco, which comprises of the management committee, as well as, so the management committee are all the elected members of the Exco who actually executes. I'll mention that a bit. We also have nominated members, which is something that we may want to start up here as well, just for reference, where you have key partners, organizations, be it from government or associations, that have seats within your Exco. And then we also have co-opted Exco, which are people that the Exco nominate to share our workload, right? So the volunteers is the bulk of all the manpower. Of course, there's so many activities that's running day to day. You do need a permanent team as well, which is where we have the secretariat, right? Mr. Freddie Tan is the director of the secretariat. So secretariat team is the full-time team that look after the day-to-day operations, all right? But they are not going to be big. Okay, so a lot of the time, actually, the secretariat requires the assistance from the volunteers, all right, and vice versa. So it's a partnership as well. So, of course, the secretariat then will cover all the corporate services as well as operation and program management. All right, so just to show who is in the advisory council. So, Mr. David Koh, our CE and Commissioner for CE for CSA, Cybersecurity Agency of Singapore, as well as the Commissioner for Cybersecurity. He sits as the chair. We have Ms. Tammy Tam, who is the Group CEO of Ensign Info Security. So this is one of the largest information security or cybersecurity companies in Singapore, right? So she represents from the private sector. David Koh represents the public sector. And then we have from Academia Prof. Chi, who is the Associate Vice President from National University of Singapore, all right? And then you have myself, who is down there to, again, play the neutral ground from the association, right? In terms of the Exco and the management committee, so you can see that we actually have 16 members who are elected. Okay, means you give the members to vote. All your members, they will vote up who is the Exco, who is the president, who is the vice presidents, so on and so forth. So these are the elected volunteers that will lead all the AiSP programs and initiatives supported by the secretariat. So if you look at one of the requirements that we have for Exco, okay, because you know some associations, when they are more well established, people are there for namesake. They want to say, oh, I'm Exco of so and so, yeah, Exco of AiSP. This helps me in my CV. We wanted to negate that. So what we have is a requirement that all Exco has to lead one or more programs. And that program is in the report card. So it's like work. Every AGM, you have to report the KPI. So, and of course, then they can tap on the secretariat, they can tap on co-opted members to help them support these initiatives and these programs. But they're all volunteers. Okay, many a times, I'm actually very glad. I'm actually very heartened during my time as president. We really have a very strong core of volunteers that actually, because a lot of the events run after office hours, run during the weekends, they all very passionately volunteer their time to host these events. So to me, that's very heartening to know. And this continues on even after my time. So how do you build up that passion, build up that core group of people to support all the activity is paramount. How do you build that community? And I think Brunei, like Singapore, we are fortunate in a way our population is small, which means that if you build it correctly, you can have a very closely knitted group of people coming together, all right? And of course, in the Exco, we have the nominees from designated organizations. So there's something, again, interesting. When AiSP was first formed in 2008, of course, we start from nothing. How do we jumpstart? So the easiest way is let's take a look at what are some of the agencies or organizations or associations that want to support. All right. So as mentioned, we were started off as a program from Singapore Computer Society. So there will be a nominee from Singapore Computer Society to help drive. Back then was IDA, now they are called IMDA. So we needed the Infocom Authority as well to be there, so they have a representation, right? Then later on, we have GovTech as well, all right, because they look after all the CIIs as well as all the government IT infrastructure, so they have a nomination. And later on, when CSA was formed, CSA also has a position here, all right? So this is another way of actually getting the ecosystem to come together via the association, put them all into one management committee, right? And of course, with that 16 plus 4, 20 people, You can tell later on when I mention all the programs, it's a lot of programs. Okay, the ExCo by themselves have full-time jobs. They also have family to feed. They cannot do everything by themselves. They can lead, but they also then require a team, a dedicated team of volunteers to help in their various initiatives and programs. That's when we have a scheme called co-opting ExCo members. So essentially, the ExCo members can nominate, all right, members who are not voted, not elected or not nominated, okay, just individual members that will help them in their programs and initiative to be co-opted into the ExCo. So we now have a huge list of co-opted members. And again, when I was president, I made a rule about co-option because again, when an association becomes big, it becomes influential, a lot of people want to be affiliated. So they always say, hey, tell their friend, hey, can you co-opt me or not? So that I can put in my CV, I'm an ExCo of AiSP. So we actually had a rule, if any of the co-opted members, all right, don't attend meetings for 3 consecutive meetings for any initiative or program, they're out. So, or if the lead says that they don't contribute, they're out. So the end of the day is not the association contributing towards your CV. It should be you contributing to the association and the ecosystem. So these are setups that we do require to have, all right? Right, so a brief overview of AiSP, how we have grown across since 2016. All right, right now we have about 2,400 individual members in Singapore. It has grown 500 times since 2016. So it's ramping up, and you know cybersecurity is actually a very hot topic. Currently, we have 16 initiatives or key programs that runs throughout the year, all right, involving 13,000 over participants across nearly 400 events. So you can imagine, again, how many events do the Secretariat have to support on a day-to-day basis? If you are looking at this, every week, they will have at least one event, either they are supporting or creating. In terms of self-organization, you look at it, nearly every week, they have 1 or 2 events that's organized by AiSP, right? These are supported by a very small Secretariat team. Right now, I think there's only 4 full-time staff. So really, the volunteers have to play a big part in all this. And not only the volunteers, a lot of the times you can also tap on the corporate as well as the academia. So back in 2016, we actually started the corporate partnership program as well as the academic partnership program to bring in the academic as well as the corporations into AiSP. Previously, before 2016, AiSP was purely individual members. Okay, individual members has an issue because even with 2,400 members, if you look at revenue, we charge about $100 for membership. That is just what, $24,000. Okay, it's not a lot of money. All right, you can't run so much events, okay, and you don't have that much resources as well. But if you have the corporates and the IHLs, now a lot of activities you run should be synergistic to what they are interested in as well. Then you can leverage on their resources. Okay, so I'm glad to say right now we have about 64 APP and CPP members. So later on I'll mention as well, has companies that are huge MNCs, has government sector, as well as actually small SMEs. All right, and to support all this, we also have our QISP, our Qualified Information Security Program, professional program, which of recent we are ramping up. We took a hiatus for the last 2 years because we were developing a body of knowledge, or revamping our body of knowledge. So right now, I think just across the last few years, we have about 400 plus this year who took it. So ramping up very, very quickly. All right. Okay, so now I'm going to spend maybe the next, time flies. Okay, I'm going to speed up a bit. I'm going to talk about each one of the pillar, advance, connect, and excel, to give you a view about what each one is. I'll go quite quickly here because I think I'm only left with 20 minutes. What each individual do and how they impact the ecosystem. Later on, you'll realize each activity you do, sometimes it impacts one particular sector, one particular cohort of people, but many times it influences across the board, all right? So let's go to advance. So again, just to recap, advance is really advancing the skills, knowledge, okay, of individuals or organizations. Now, in order to do that, actually AiSP was very fortunate. When AiSP first started, the first work item which they thought was the most important back then was something called the body of knowledge. Okay, why the body of knowledge? Because at that point of time, you have a big fight between people who call cybersecurity, people who call it information security, people who call it IT security. Definitions are all over the place. Nobody knows what is what. So back then in 2008, actually, AiSP, if I look at it even globally, Okay, it was the first BOK that covers information security. All right. So if you look at this, why that was the case is because with that, then you can start to bring the terminologies all into a common platform, the knowledge areas into a common platform. Right. So that is what we actually created the BOK back in 2008 for. But the whole agenda, or the key agenda at that point of time, was that they wanted to professionalize information security. Okay, in order to do that, you need a body of knowledge. Of course, later on, that's why plans and execution is very different. Plan sounds very simple, right? I just professionalize a sector. Execution, you try to do that, you realize businesses start to complain, correct? Does that mean you elevate the cost? How do we make sure we have enough people? What happens if your accreditation scheme, you have black sheep? How do you onboard them, offboard them? So at that point of time, it wasn't ready, right? So, but the body of knowledge still continued. We actually used the body of knowledge to create a certification program called QISP, right? A Qualified Information Security Professional Program, right? So that's a way of validating that you have the skills and knowledge, okay? And then from there, you become professionalized. Of course, we tried to do that for a few years, all the way up to 2015. Then we realized, very tough. Okay, let's try to expand this. Okay, so we started an effort to revamp the body of knowledge. Okay, not to just serve as a means of professionalization, but serve as a map. Because I want you to imagine this. Right now, there's so many terminologies about cybersecurity, right? Not only that, if you look out in the world, there are so many today, so many training courses on cybersecurity. Everybody claims to be doing something. All right. Then you have people who are doing research in cybersecurity, who is again all over the place. Right. Then you have degree programs, for example, which is again all having their own definition. So what we realized back in 2016, 2017 was actually the body of knowledge is a very good map for everybody to come together. Okay, at least you have your own map. So I understand at that point of time as well, US, UK, they also are trying to build their own body of knowledge. What you can do then is become very simple. If we harmonize a body of knowledge within our ecosystem, right? If I want to do mutual recognition with somebody else, I take your map and take my map. We do a comparison. It facilitates a discussion, correct? So from there, you can do mutual recognition, you can do shared coursework, you can do accreditation. So for us, it's actually very, very important to have the body of knowledge, right? And from there, as I said, you can get easy access. You know exactly where are the gaps. You can map all the certifications and body of knowledge. You will realize, there are certain areas that's missing. Then how do you put emphasis onto those? All right. So also, as I mentioned, it's a very great way for us to use that as a means of regionalization, talking to regional partners. All right. So we actually spent a number of years from 2017 to 2019 working on BOK 2.0. I can share, when I first did this in 2017, my thought was, let's do this in 3 months. I was super naive. It's not simple at all. So it took us a good 2 years to actually complete it. And in 2019, I thought, okay, we have finally gotten a draft, got minister to launch it. I thought, okay, very quick, we can publish a book. Then I realized, not that simple as well. So it took me a good 2-3 years. Hopefully by next year, we can publish the ebook on the BOK. Okay, because the challenge I found was cybersecurity moves so fast. By the time you publish something, it's already obsolete. So how do you then create a body of knowledge that is live? Not only that, because it's growing bigger and bigger, if you try to do it by yourself, all right, you are going to have a problem because you don't have enough manpower, all right? So then how do you make use of this? That's why we want to go the ebook methodology, and we want to do a lot of collaborations. I think one of the things that we want to talk about during the Southeast Asia Cybersecurity Consortium as well is how do we work together on sharing BOKs, working together on that, because it's evolving, it's moving very quickly, all right? Okay, then with the BOK, then what we can do is knowledge sharing and so on and so forth. So in terms of that, the BOK serve multiple purposes. One of them is in cybersecurity certification. Okay, how do we get people to systematically move into cybersecurity? Okay, some of them may not be professionals by the end of the day, but how do you elevate the entire ground? Okay, because the thing is like this. You can imagine today I don't know how many of you play soccer, but forgive me if you don't, but hopefully you see the analogy of this. Okay, you can have a very good goalkeeper. Okay, but the goalkeeper will do his job better if he has very good defenders, correct? And the defenders will do a very good job. If the attackers, that means that my own team attackers can also help in the defense. So you realize, right, when you play soccer, not the attackers, the strikers don't always stay up front. They come back to help support defense as well. So the better actually the entire ecosystem in terms of cybersecurity posture and awareness, the better it becomes. So if you look at this, the whole training program, it goes from awareness, which means that these people may not be the ones that are going to be cybersecurity professionals, but at least for all businesses, decision makers, they should know some about cybersecurity, right? So from there, then you have those that may want to know a bit more. That means there may be IT personnel, right, that needs a bit more about cybersecurity. They can go for cybersecurity essentials. And then you have those that are more into cybersecurity. They want to be a cybersecurity professional. Then they go into, let's say, the qualified information security professional program. Then if you look at cyber today, there's many, many different specializations. Okay, be it threat intelligence, forensics, red teaming, blue teaming, pen testing, vulnerability assessment, so on and so forth. Then you go into the specializations, all right? So, and all this actually based on the body of knowledge. Okay, so give you just a quick overview of what the QISP is. So essentially the QISP at this moment, we have actually moved it online. That's why you see that in the past we used to do it physical. Then we realized that actually with platforms like Person View, we don't need to do that physical anymore. If it's on Person View, then anybody could take it online as long as a Person View, take it remotely as long as a Person View test center. I think in Brunei there is as well, right? So you can actually take QISP in Brunei as well. Okay, so it's 100 questions across 2.5 hours. So it's done via the Person View online proctored system. The interesting thing is what? In the past, when we did QISP, okay, you need to have 65% mark in order to pass. A lot of people would think 100 MCQ questions should be quite simple, right? Scoring 65 marks. Okay, just to let you all know, the failure rate or the passing rate is 10%, which means 90% of the people fail QISP. The reason is because it's not just about knowledge. It's also about, a lot of the questions about experience as well. If you have not done it before, very difficult for you to see, because in cybersecurity, a lot of things are very close. Once you have an experience, you know how to differentiate, all right? So that's why, yeah, not many people pass the QISP. And what has happened is a recent review we did, we realized when we did the psychometric analysis of the QISP, we realized actually in QISP, we don't need them to get 65. There's a lot of people who get 50%. And actually you look at it, they have sufficient knowledge and skills. They just don't have the experience. And actually the question bank that we have for QISP surprisingly actually do that. So people who have no experience, they can, if they have enough skills and knowledge, they can get 50%. So now we are actually doing a second tier, okay, for QISP called QISA, Qualified Information Security Associate. So if they can get the key knowledge and skill questions correct, which is about 50% as a passing mark, they get QISA. If they manage to get 65%, then they get QISP, right? So at least now there is also a progression path. Also, very, how do you call it, disencouraging for people who keep building QISP, right? So yeah, so for QISP, these are some of the information that we have. You can go to the website for more information about QISP, right? And these are the domain that's been covered. So it covers really holistically governance, management, physical security, security architecture, ops, software, as well as cyber defense. Wait, whole point about QISP, okay, just now if you look at the whole flow chart for the training, it's really to give a broad foundation. Later on, you can go into your specializations, be you want to take the CREST, CRT, CCT examinations, OSCP, so on and so forth, all right? Okay, and then of course there's certifications. There's also others, okay, like how do we create more awareness for companies, all right, or even for particular organizations that are key in particular areas, let's say cloud security, be it red teaming, cryptography. So we actually create knowledge series, and this is actually where it's also important. If you go up to our, or you scan the QR code to see all the events, you'll realize in the events, there's many events that we actually jointly organize with members or MOU partners, other associations. And actually COVID brought up one very good thing with, yeah, I mean, COVID by itself is bad. Okay, but one thing that was good about it, all right, is it forced everybody online. Last time you want to create an online seminar, everybody will question you, hey, how come online? You should do it physical, more interactive. COVID forced everybody online. Then what we discovered, last time when we want to run physical seminar across borders, people have to fly in, fly out. It's very expensive, right? So one of this we did it with Israel. It was very easy to set up. Nobody flew anywhere. You got experts from both sides, and we have a joint seminar. So actually, we will continue to push up webinars like this, because then knowledge sharing becomes easier, all right? So that's what we want to do. All right, and of course, for us, we are all professionals. We have a lot of people who are very interested in key areas of cybersecurity. So we also have SIGs. This is something that the association here may want to do. Maybe not so many SIGs at the start, but somewhere systematically along the line, what is critical? And you all start from there. So we have 4 SIG in terms of cloud security, threat intel, data and privacy, and Internet of Things. Okay, so just some quick overview for cloud security SIG. Okay, we have quite a lot of activities that we run in there. And as I said, you can see now a lot of this Zoom meeting or webinars that goes on. Those help actually facilitate the information sharing, right? So the SIG to us is one of the key ways of reaching out to companies. And if you look at it, like the little thing you see over here, the Cloud Security Summit, you will see a lot of logos as well. So actually a lot of the companies, they are in the area of cloud security, for example, they can come and contribute, all right, the content. You don't need to do it all by your exco. That's why forming that corporate partnership is so important. Okay, same thing for CTI. So we have exco members as well as organizations, associations that help us in this. Okay, data privacy, working with PDPA, looking at our PDPA, our Data Protection Act in Singapore, how that compares to GDPR, so on and so forth. Okay, as well as the IoT SIG, because that's a hot area. So the key thing about SIG, special interest groups, is looking at people who are in that area, what they are interested in, okay, coming together to help push that. Okay, and again, because it's so neutral as an association, we can get actually some of these events, you will see competitors, that means competing companies coming together. All right, and that's a good time for them to come together because as an association, it's easier to get them, all right, come together to a same platform, a same event, a same panel. Okay, whereas if it's a company organized events, very difficult, all right? Okay, next I'll talk about Connect. So since 2016, we started our corporate partnership program. So as of today, we have 53 CPP members. If you see here, it has everything from big companies like your Trend Micro, who support us a lot in our activities, to Acronis, to Fortinet, Huawei, so on and so forth. We also have smaller companies within this list as well. So you bring, again, the entire ecosystem together. And these are very important because, as I mentioned, we have volunteers, 2,400. We have 2,400 members. We have about 100 volunteers working on the programs. We have a very small secretariat team. That's not sufficient to really help grow an ecosystem. You need corporate partners. So we are very glad, actually, we managed to have all these corporate partners with us. And of course, not only from the private sector, you can see CSA is in there as well. So yeah, CSA is also our corporate partner. We also have actually MINDEF who is on board as well, and GovTech, right? And then in terms of the IHLs, okay, in Singapore, there are altogether 11 Institute of Higher Learnings. Okay, we have actually 5 polytechnics, 6 universities at the moment, and 1 ITE, 1 Institute of Technical Education. You will see 11 logos down here. Okay, we are short of NTU. Their logo will come next year. So what this is good in is because once you have this entire ecosystem, you can work together with them, get their students on board. Okay, can talk to the faculty, create training programs. And this is again very important because you align to their agenda. They are there for training. We are here to ensure that we have a talent pipeline to make sure that we raise the standards. This partnership is essential. And of course, just now I talked about body of knowledge. You need a lot of manpower to work on body of knowledge, and it aligns very well with the professors in the university, right? So how do you tap on all these resources, right? And that's the membership programs. What are some of the advantages for individuals? They can come really network, be Advanced Connect Excel. That's where the individuals have benefit. For the academic, not only do they get free memberships for their staff, their students are all onboarded onto AiSP, right? They can also participate in our events. But best of all, we also do the review of their curriculum. Okay, the reason being, just now I mentioned, once you have a body of knowledge, you can now align and say which university or which Institute of Higher Learning, what are you doing? What is your overlaps with the other Institute of Higher Learning? Okay, what is the areas that's not covered? That helps us actually formate the entire talent pipeline or development quite well. And then, of course, we have our CPP members, which, yeah, at this moment, we also have the memberships for their staff. But more importantly, it gives them a means to network. If they are looking at hiring, they can network with all the students, all the professionals to get talent. If they are looking at even marketing of their products, we have a lot of knowledge, a lot of sharing series where we are looking at particular vulnerabilities. We don't do direct marketing, but they can cover, these are the related areas or related sets of products, generalized, that are, let's say, for example, antivirus scanners, threat detectors, that the community can adopt. So they find that quite useful as well. All right. So another thing that I think is good in the Connect is just now I mentioned, if you look at the demographics, it's very interesting. Actually, the demographics here is very good. We have a very good balance of ladies and gentlemen. When I first started CRESS, okay, so I started CRESS Singapore as well in 2016. The first industry session, CRESS is for penetration testers, pen testers. The first industry session I had about 150 people. Across the entire room, there was 2 ladies. One was in our secretariat, the other one was in the audience. Immediately at that point of time, I thought, oh, we have a problem. Okay, not so much about whether is this a male-dominated or female-dominated industry. The whole point is we have such a big talent crunch. This tells me we are not tapping on one area. Okay, there's some place, because Singapore is a small country as well. All right, the population is limited. Correct. If you have such a demographics, what it means is that the population gender mix is about 50-50%. I'm missing 50% of the manpower from somewhere. What is wrong? Correct. So is it because of the awareness? Is it because it doesn't look attractive for the ladies? Because cyber is one of those areas that it's not manual work. It's a lot of thinking. Okay, there's a lot of skill sets, soft skills especially. So it doesn't matter which gender you're at, but what it tells me is we have a problem in terms of manpower. Okay, how to resolve that? So we have a very strong group of excos who are our ladies, who was very, how do you call it? Very, really putting a lot of effort. Okay, they're highly motivated to ensure that we really help elevate our cybersecurity talent problem by bringing more ladies into the profession. So we started the Ladies in Cyber program. We have done very well. Yeah, so they actually this year started their inaugural Ladies in Cyber Symposium. If you look at it now, even in the CISO's office, we now start the ladies that actually, we go down even to schools, secondary schools to give talks. And the talks is always the ladies will have mentors, they have mentorship programs where they highlight to say that, look, gender has nothing to do with this profession. Okay, it's a profession that is kind of gender neutral. It's more about your interest, your passion. So, and tell them, look, you are not ostracized. So this is something that we wanted to do. And I think the ladies are very motivated and strong. So gradually we are seeing a shift. All right, we are now starting to tap onto that part of the manpower that wasn't tapped previously. I think we will continue to do so until we get the 50-50% mix. Yeah, so it's very interesting. Their inaugural social gathering, you can see from this picture here. If you can see myself, I'm all the way to the back. All of a sudden, I know the feeling. Okay, I was in the industry event, was 151 lady. Down here, I think was just the 2 guys behind. So yeah, so as I said, it's not really about this whole gender equality thing. It's really on tapping that manpower. And to me, these are core groups of cybersecurity professionals, which are ladies. Correct. Can you elevate them, bring them up to tell the other girls in the secondary school that this is a profession that you can actually sought after, demystify any myth that you want and create role models, right? So that is working fine with us. So you can see a lot of school talks that we went to as well. All right. And lastly, in terms of connect, we don't want to leave anybody behind. And one of those that get left out very often is your small enterprises. Okay, these are your very small companies that, if you look at it, form a majority of the companies within the country. In Singapore, micro SMEs and SME form about 90% of all companies in Singapore. Okay, but they don't have the resources. Okay, they cannot have a cybersecurity team. But what can you do for them? Okay, it's really how do you elevate the cybersecurity awareness so that when they go out, they are looking for products. They know what products to go and find, because for them, budget is also limited. Okay, so how do you create that type of awareness? Which is why we started the Cybersecurity Awareness Advisory Program, really to drive the cybersecurity awareness training for the businesses. Also, so that, because it's piece all over the place, right? I mean, how do we bring out what are the fundamental knowledge that needs to be shared? Okay, so that businesses, when they start up, they can just refer to this very easy. The problem with professionals, you ask us to write body of knowledge, like our information security body of knowledge. After it's 1,000 over pages long. After page 10, I'm pretty sure most businesses will go to sleep already. Okay, they will just take the book and throw it away. So you need actually a separate body of knowledge that attunes to businesses, that is in the layman term that they can understand. All right, which is something that we thought was essential. So later on, I will share, and it's available online. You can look at that as well. So that from there, they have sufficient knowledge so that they can go and procure solutions and services. Okay, so we actually work together with a lot of the associations, let's say LawSoc, okay, the insurance associations, so the adjacent associations get their members to come in. We give talks and run focus groups. What are the key areas that we want to do that want to elevate? What are the key concerns as well? And then we created a CAP body of knowledge. Okay, so these are all the different things that we do, including a SME conference with our Association of Small and Medium Enterprises. Okay, but what is important is after doing all this focus group, we start to realize there's commonality. Okay, we started to formate a body of knowledge, okay, for SME business owners, right? So this one is actually is actually available online, covers the 6 modules, all right, which businesses can now take, okay, understand it, and this is something that the association here might want to consider as well, adopting or translating some of this, so that because it's common knowledge for most SMEs, from there they are able to build up at least basic competency, basic awareness, so that they can procure better services. All right. Then we also have the Singapore Cyber Day, which we created in 2020, running for a few years now, to really drive down awareness, not only SMEs, but before they even hit business at the school age, can we start to bring them into be more cybersecurity aware? Because why? Nowadays, myself guilty as charged as well. A lot of the parents put their phone, kids say, I want to play Pokemon. Okay, long, you take your phone, you give it to them. Okay, their cybersecurity awareness is also important. So we want to elevate the whole cybersecurity awareness for the kids as well in school, primary and secondary school children. And in order to do that, again, now we are talking about tens and thousands, 100,000 of students. AiSP alone, we cannot do it. Okay, which is why I say connect is so important. You look at all the logos there, these are what we term as the Singapore Cybersecurity Inter-Association Forum. So we actually formate, and we are the secretariat to that forum, where we bring in all the associations in Singapore and say, okay, what are some of the key things we can do together? Because some of the associations already have such materials. Leverage on their materials, not everything has to be AiSP. Okay, but we can help them consolidate all this, distribute, everybody help each other out. So you can tell this is one of the events that we do with the multi-association. Right, and of course, now with IMDA, we are also doing the Digital for Life, the cyber wellness program, right? Because Singapore is a multiracial country, so we also need to translate some of our materials. That's why you see certain things are in Chinese as well. So we have EXCO, who is very conversant in Chinese, who runs these awareness talks. All right, so in terms of the local ecosystem, we have a lot of MOU partners with associations, adjacent associations locally and globally. All right, then I will just skip. And the important thing is, as I mentioned, actually, not only Singapore, inward looking, if we are safe, is not good enough. Okay, we want the whole region together to be safe because it will help businesses in the region to create an ASEAN presence. And that's why we wanted to help facilitate the Southeast Asia Cybersecurity Consortium. All right, how can we bring everybody together, work with everybody? Okay, and this is really, it's going to be hosted in Singapore this year, but how it's going to run, I think during that meeting, all the different organizations will come together, brainstorm. How do we want to collectively build a strong cybersecurity ecosystem in the region? All right, so we are glad, okay, we have 8 members on board already. Okay, yeah, some of the countries, unfortunately, I mean, they cannot make it now, but I'm pretty sure they will join us sooner or later, right? Okay, and very quickly, because I'm running out of time, on Excel. So Excel is really on the recognition part. Okay, so together with the multi-association, okay, we actually created a cybersecurity awards because common pain point. Not only AiSP, we are also association at ISACA, IISc Square, Singapore Computer Society, SGTech. Everybody recognized the fact for cybersecurity professionals, we are always the one that get the blame. Correct? How do we then promote it so that people know the hard work that we do, celebrate our successes? Our successes is defending, all right, in defending their assets. So we created the cybersecurity awards ever since 2018. So as I said, this is actually an event that is done with all the associations. So really, you do not need to be core cybersecurity. Okay, like Computer Society, they have many other areas. It's good for them to be involved as well. We even have Law Society as one of them. So they represent a big user group of cybersecurity, and you want them to also recognize it. So this has been very successful. I mean, every year we actually recognize quite a lot of individuals. So there's individuals, professionals, Hall of Fames for individuals as well as companies. Okay, be it vendors, how do the vendors help? But also end users, how did they adopt, okay, cybersecurity practices, right? Okay, and of course, we recognize the professionals. We also want to recognize the students because actually a lot of students are also interested in cybersecurity. They create events for their classmates, create events for the other students in other IHLs. So we actually wanted to recognize them as well. So we had the Student Volunteer Recognition Program, which actually recognizes students' effort. So we have bronze, silver, gold recognition. And for the gold awardees, we actually work with companies, all right, to give them internship opportunities with these companies. So in this case, win-win on both sides, right? The students want to see what the industry is about. They want to go to these big companies. The big companies are looking for talent. So it's a win-win partnership, okay? So really to help both sides, for the students to be motivated to join the cybersecurity industry, for the companies to do their part as well, okay, to really promote cybersecurity as a profession to these students. Yeah, so we run these awards now every year, and it has been, if you look at the top, that one is because of COVID. In Singapore, at that point of time when we did the awards, we can have a maximum of 50 people. But right now, we open up already, so it's usually attended by hundreds of people, right? And really, for the students, they take the pride when they go out the stage. The first inaugural round, we got the parents to come in as well. Because why? If the parents feel proud about their kids in cyber, most probably they will bring their kids to join the profession. Because if we don't have this, every day the parents just read about the bad news on news, correct? They just read about breaches. To them, it's a very negative thing. So here, when we have SBRP, bringing the parents along, then also give them additional motivation, okay, and reason and justification for their kids to continue down this profession. So they see that efforts there are being recognized. Okay, and lastly, ABIP, okay, the AiSP Validated Information Professional Scheme. So this is one of those that we created because we have a body of knowledge already. I can now, based on the body of knowledge, see where the professionals are to say that you have attained sufficient skills and knowledge to actually practice. That's one. Number two, also a means of blacklisting. Okay, if you have ethical issues only show up when you're doing work. Okay, you will have somebody who suffers because of it, but you don't want this to procrastinate down to others as well. So is there a means that we can have this where people are onboarded? If anything goes wrong, there's a disciplinary committee, there's a means of recourse, all right, for people who might have, people who might have suffered because of an unethical cybersecurity professional, then bring them out. And then after that, it's not only about bringing out, how do you bring them back into the system again? How do you, because the thing about this, and this one is something that we're still working on, it's very easy to blacklist somebody. In cybersecurity, when you blacklist somebody, remember these are people which may have ethical issues, but they have skills and knowledge, all right? You can leave them as they are. That means you blacklist them from the bright side. Where do you think they will go to? They need to leave. They'll go to the dark side. Okay, so by just blacklisting doesn't help. How do you then do a recourse so that you can guide them towards the good side? Okay, so you have less one adversary on the other side. And this is actually something that requires a lot of conversations with the governments, because very often they will say, oh, this guy has a track record. Okay, how do you do that blue ribbon thing? It's not easy. And that's something that we are trying to figure out as well. Okay, but the first thing that we need to do is actually what we realized was that a lot of this profession, sometimes it's ethical problems, sometimes it's just because they were careless. They got caught in the situation. And what happens? Some companies, rightfully or not rightfully, when a breach like this happens or a lapse happens, because of all the laws that we have, the first thing they want to do is to protect the company. Then they push the individual out, okay, to be hung dry. And what happens is this individual, they are just individuals, they just got fired from the job. The lawsuit is now under their obligations. They don't have the type of resources to defend themselves. So I hate to say this, but sometimes they are like a scapegoat. And all you need is a few of this to create a very bad name in the profession. Nobody will want to join. Everybody say, oh, CISO, don't want to take CISO role because so-and-so was jailed after that, or so-and-so was hanged dry by their companies. So we want to create a scheme where if they are validated, okay, they are ethical, they may have done certain things that due to carelessness or just a missight, okay, got themselves into trouble, got fired from their company. How do we help them? All right, which is why we're also the first member to bundle professional indemnity. So that at least now there's a group insurance that we do for all the APIPs, that now they have resources to help fight their case. Because sometimes it's not intentional. Okay, it's just unfortunate when things like this happen, especially when you have legal laws, companies have to protect themselves. Okay, the bosses of the company have to protect themselves, so everybody is protecting themselves. The professionals sometimes are the one that's blamed. Okay, so we actually want to do this as well. So we do have quite a stringent validation process, which we are ramping up today, right? So very quickly, I covered Advanced Connect Excel. Just to reiterate again, advance means advancing the skills and knowledge of the individuals, of the companies, of the ecosystem as a whole. Connect means connecting everybody up, be it locally, all the different sectors, public, private, academia. other associations as well as regionally. And Excel is really recognizing volunteerism, recognizing the profession. Okay, so we have many activities. You can go up to the AiSP website to see them. All right. So running out of time, so that is all I have for yourself today. For those joining the focus group, I will reiterate some of this and go into further details for individual programs. I think later during the panel session, we'll have a Slido as well. Really hope you all can join us in the Slido. Ask your questions, give us your view. We'll run some surveys during the panels as well to get all your insightful thoughts about what we can do for the new association here. All right, with that, thank you so much. Right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. All right, hopefully for this session, I will not be the one talking anymore, and I'll leave it to my dear panelists to actually help address some of the questions that you have. So before we begin, actually, could I bother everybody to maybe take down this QR code so that we do this on Slido? So your participation is very important for us because I think getting to hear from you, all right, what you think, what are the questions that you may have. For those that are shy, you can use Slido to actually put up your questions. Or if you want to, you can also use the mics to actually to ask your questions as well. So can we have, if all of you can do this, the Slido, you don't need to install any app, it's all web-based. Okay, just scan on it, you will be able to participate in the Slido session. Okay, and just to make sure that everybody is in there, let's see how many people are there. Okay, let's just do a quick one so that I can see the counter up there, how many people are actually on Slido. Yeah, so if you can just go up to Slido, yeah, let us know which sector does your organization or company belong to, right? So that we can see the demographics. One look around the room, we should have close about, I think definitely more than 50 people, closer to 100. So let's see how many people are in here. Okay, you can use this same platform, okay, to actually ask your questions as well. Okay, so you will see a Q&A tab. Okay, you can actually type your questions in there, upvote and downvote the questions. Right. Great. Let's see whether we can break 100. Okay, we have four more of you can do this. Great, thank you so much. All right, I think let's keep the Slido on your phones. I assure you, I didn't put any malicious malware into this, so you can just use it. We are going to use this platform to actually ask your questions. So we can see there's actually quite a lot of people from the private sector today here, followed by the public sector and some from. So very good mix of participants. So very good. Thank you so much. What we'll do now is continue your questions. Use the Q&A to post your questions. Later on, I will use this to create some survey to get some ground sensing as well. All right, but before I do that, I would like to introduce, like my panelists to introduce themselves. So maybe I can start from our colleague from CSB first.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good morning, everybody. My name is Ampuan Chazri from Cybersecurity Brunei. I'm actually second officer from Prime Minister's office. I'm here on behalf of Cybersecurity Brunei, obviously. If you have any particular question in regards to our roles and function, feel free to ask. We have mics on the floor. We have Slido. So, thank you. Hello, good morning, everyone. I'm Freddie. Been in the cybersecurity industry for over 35 years. Started my career with the government. Then I moved on to Microsoft. But all this while, since year 2000, I was actively involved in the area of capability development. So I've been involved on the board of IAC². I was in 2008. I was part of the Protect Committee for the formation of AiSP. Like Dr. Steven Wong, I was also in the CSA Cloud Security association, all right, started it, was also in Singapore SG Tech, cybersecurity chapter. And I'm also still today, still on Singapore Computer Society, cybersecurity exco. All right. So been a volunteer for many associations, and happy to be here to help in any way.
Right, thank you, Freddie. Maybe we can go a question first to yourself. I mean, looking at the cybersecurity ecosystem here, what are the intentions from CSP about setting up the association here? What do you think would be the short-term objectives or the short-term benefits you see in setting up such an association?
Thank you very much for the question. From CSP's perspective, what we wanted to achieve in the short term is basically to develop the ecosystem itself. As you rightly mentioned, there's always this crunch of cybersecurity professionals, especially in Brunei, whereby since we don't have a specific educational course in cybersecurity, and people with IT backgrounds here are quite in numbers, but not in cybersecurity. So we're hoping that with the development of this association itself, with assistance and from all sectors, is to develop our own capabilities as well, to understand what's the need currently in Brunei, what do we have, and to look for in the future what's needed. Because for Brunei Darussalam, we are planning to introduce a cybersecurity order, which will look into the protection of our critical national information infrastructure. This will then mandates for all the CII owners to provide basic security services, cybersecurity services to the platform. So with this coming in, and I think it's high time for us to really develop our own capabilities and capacity as well, whether it's through the education sector, through private sector. And with the assistance of the association itself, I think that's very important to establish as well. I think that's all. No problem. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So before I go to Freddie for him to talk a bit about how we started, because as I mentioned, I wasn't there when AiSP was started. I think Freddie was there, right? So for him to share his experience. But before we do that, just a quick poll, really just to get a sensing of how the current hygiene level or the ecosystem is over here in Brunei. I mean, do you all know of anybody, or if yourself is a victim of a cybersecurity breach or incident before? I mean, regardless of skills, it can be phishing emails, account compromise, so on and so forth, right? Just a quick sensing to see what is the current state, right? Freddie, maybe you can share while everybody is doing the polling. What was the experience like starting AiSP, and by and large, what may be some of the key challenges in formating a young association?
All right. I think one of the challenge we have globally is the lack of cybersecurity talent. All right. The skill set is very global. People can move, right? They can find employment not only in their own country, but they can also go elsewhere. Yeah. All right. So, hello. Yeah. All right. So one of the things we have to do is to generate the interest in cybersecurity. All right. I always say this. Cybersecurity requires three things. All right. You need the solutions, or we call it the products. All right. I always say products, you only need money. Right. Money, you can buy products. There'll be many vendors that wants to sell to you. The second thing is you need the process. All right. And you are going to have a cybersecurity order. All right. So you also have the Cyber Misuse Act. You also have the PDPA. So you have the process in place. Now, processes unfortunately cannot translate, and processes and products cannot translate into compliance by themselves. You need people who understand the product, people who understand the process. And that is where capability building and capacity building is all about. And not necessarily everything may be brought in, all right, from overseas, because sometimes some of your processes may be unique to your country. That's one of the things we realize, all right. Many a times the attacks that's happening may not generally be something which is generally happening across the whole world, right? Especially for for example, your economy, you're big on oil and gas, all right, and so there is this thing called OT security. So for you, the demand on professionals with the right qualification may actually be steep towards not just information security, but also in operational technology. All right, so this is where I think, you know, ourselves, we need to understand more about your core industries in Brunei. All right, essentially, I think the big question mark we always have is you know, what keeps you awake at night, all right? And if you can share that, all right, then I think we understand more about what are the gaps that Brunei require to address in the next 3 years.
Okay, very good. Thank you, thank you. Now looking at the survey that we have over here, it's not just to say this is not uncommon. All right, I'll be actually very surprised at the day and age that actually you haven't been breached or know somebody who has suffered a cybersecurity incident before. All right, so for the 9% of the audience who don't have anyone who has suffered a breach, it's either your friends are very lucky, all right, or yeah, you don't have many friends. I wish that was not the case. Okay, but it's not an uncommon problem because the surfaces are getting larger and larger, and nowadays cybersecurity is no longer, the attacks sometimes is not targeted anymore. Okay, sometimes it's done by bots that just run over everywhere. So yeah, even the men on the street, okay, even signposts on the streets got some of them get hacked by one-cry. Correct? They got ransomware on signposts, all those posted signs. So such things happen now because the attackers are no longer just doing targeted attacks. Okay, they are going all over the place. Which then bring up the next question that I'd like to check with the audience is actually in terms of the cybersecurity awareness that you see in Brunei. What is your own feel if today we were to ask you about the cybersecurity awareness level? So while you are doing this this survey, maybe I can go to our CSP colleague. What do you think the new association can do in terms of cybersecurity awareness here in Brunei, or what would be in your wish list?
Thank you very much. Through CSB and through ITPSS itself, we do create our own awareness program. We reach out to, thank you. Yeah, we do reach out to all levels of sectors, whether it's in the school, from the government side, from public side. But however, our capacity are quite limited and we cannot be everywhere and anywhere at the same time. So hopefully with this association as well as involvement from all different multi-stakeholders with different interests and different point of view, the messaging on cybersecurity awareness can be more directed and more informative. Because if you're asking from Cybersecurity Brunei, our perspective would be more on security itself, but it doesn't add on to the specific topic that requires from the industry. For example, if you're asking from telcos, the cybersecurity part of awareness for telecommunication will be vastly different. For education, from policing, for example, their messaging would be quite different from ours. And hopefully through this association itself, we can create a more complete, a more targeted, more direct approach, as well as to reach out to more people as well. Brunei has quite high mobile internet users as well. So then we do promote through the cinemas, for example, through radio station. I think we can further enhance that as well with more collaboration from all sectors. Thank you.
Right, Freddie, maybe you can share a bit of your experience. Because when AiSP started, just as I mentioned earlier on, initially it was started as an association for the cybersecurity professionals. All right. And the issue that we have there is that it was already a small crowd to start with. So later on, I think we expanded a lot more. Right. So maybe Freddie, from your view, do you think awareness, if you were given a book to restart the whole thing again, all right, to be Back to the Future card that goes back to 2008. Would you go with awareness, or would you still do with the professionalization, especially when you are starting the ecosystem from scratch?
It's a different situation back in 2008, I have to say. All right. So when we first started, yeah, we all know that there was a lack of awareness. But to be fair, back then, not as many consumers and enterprises were actually being targeted. If you look at back then, the big problem was things like denial of service attacks, right? Which, every one of you basically will be affected by not being able to surf the internet, that's all. But today we have very, very grave problems, which affects things like not just availability, but also crime. I don't know what is the crime situation or cybercrime situation in Brunei, but I'm sure many of you would have read about Singapore. And one of the things I think Singapore, we have progressed from 2008 is the fact that we are able to measure now. One of the most important things I believe is that in cybersecurity, you must be able to measure, right? If you don't know what you don't know, it is very hard for you to plan. All right. And so one of the things we done very well is we are able to measure, and now we know exactly our what is happening in our community, in our enterprises, as well as in the government. So back to your question, all right. I would say that back then, all right, our biggest challenge was to bring credibility to the profession. Back then, the man in the street doesn't really care about cybersecurity professional. To them, it's like, it doesn't concern me. Back then, SMEs weren't really interested. You can do events, they will not turn up. All right, but things changed after things like ransomware started affecting them. When things like WannaCry, all right, and all these things. So they begin to realize that they need to have that awareness. So unfortunately in cybersecurity, it's very much like in the medical field. Sometimes we take our health for granted. All right, we don't go and read up about eating well and all these things. But when you start to, or when your doctor starts to tell you that you have high glucose, you have high blood, then you start reading up, all right, and the awareness comes in. So cybersecurity, unfortunately, also is like that. The demand wasn't as great, right? So, but what the association started with was that we wanted to focus a lot on professionalism, all right, and that's why we started a lot with our BOK, body of knowledge, and we started the examinations because we saw that. As I mentioned, all right, the three things, all right, products you can quickly buy, all right, processes you can put in place, it takes some time, all right, but you can easily create awareness programs and so on, but people take a long time to train, all right, and that's what we realized. We started with the people part first.
Right, thank you. Actually, now let's give an opportunity for audiences on the floor to ask the questions. Those that have a question to ask, the one who goes to the mic physically get precedence over the Slido. Anybody has a pressing question that you might like to ask, you can raise up your hands and then I think we can pass the mic. Okay, if not, what we'll do is, I can still raise up your hands, I will still scan around, but let's take the top question from Slido first, which mentioned professional is key, but some organizations don't have a cybersecurity as a profession or destination, rather than a job description. So you put cybersecurity as one of the things you are looking at. Okay, how can this be changed? Maybe, so we can mention a bit about this.
Okay, thank you very much. I think for Brunei, we recently launched through AITI initiative, the Brunei Competency Framework, whereby it describes job description for cybersecurity. I think, yes, there is a gap within the organization whereby they don't specifically state cybersecurity as a profession in some regards. So whereby if you're in IT, there's a problem, that's your job now on security itself. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that now organizations have to think about adding on to a specific cybersecurity officer to your own organization itself. So whereby you can now maybe try to find someone with proper background, with proper training, with proper experience as well if needed. Otherwise, if you have a individual who has IT background, then you need to train them internally first. So it's high time for now for people to look into adding a more specific cybersecurity officer. I think through the association itself, we can help to establish this. We can help these people to improve their technical background, technical training as well. Thank you.
Freddie, you have been in big organizations, small organizations. I mean, some organizations can afford this role as a solo role. Some organizations can't. What's your view?
Yeah, so generally, organizations like the military, the government, as in the Home Affairs, they see the need for such a professional. The banks, yes, they do. I agree that for many years we struggle to get more organizations to have someone called a CISO. So what the cybersecurity agency in Singapore did was, and unfortunately this is something that most governments are doing. It's all about accountability. All right. You don't need to be prescriptive and say that your organization needs a CISO, but you need to be prescriptive to say that when something happens, and this is actually in our act, someone in your organization is responsible to respond to the cybersecurity, of Brunei. So tell me who that person is. The moment you say that, they will figure out whether they need a CISO or not. Because the CEO will most likely not want to put his or her name there. Right? And but it leads to a very negative notion. All right, let me tell you this, and that is why in Singapore we are doing other things to help. All right, because we don't want people to say CISO it means career is surely over. All right. Yeah, unfortunately, that's why in Singapore we started this thing called the Cybersecurity Awards. All right. Otherwise, nobody wants to be a CISO because they know that they are basically there as a lightning rod. When the lightning strikes, they are the one to get it. All right. So I think it's very important that and that's where the association comes in. All right, to help to negate that negative aspect of that, that profession, that role. I think the other thing, of course, is and which is very important. Just naming someone responsible for that or being accountable for that role, all right, is the simplest thing to do. But the most important question is the person qualified? Does the person know exactly what he is supposed to do when something happens? What are the things he needs to provide to Cybersecurity Brunei? Is he capable of delivering that information? And so that is where the ecosystem comes in. You need the academia. Academia has to support, to provide, we call it lifelong learning. All right. These individuals need to be trained. They need to have certain programs to support them. Otherwise, they'll just be, I don't like to use these words, sitting ducks. All right. Waiting for something to happen and then they get shot.
Okay, thank you so much. So the next question, actually, I think Mr. Savi can answer because I'm not too sure about this as well. Is the Cybersecurity Brunei framework readily available for public view?
Thank you for the question. Unfortunately, at the current moment, it's still being amended internally within Cybersecurity Brunei. So if there's a particular organization that wants to have a discussion with this, I think you can approach us so we can have a more one-on-one discussion because as you mentioned, cybersecurity moves quite fast. And the documents, if you want to present now, make it public, it will not be as up to date as we would like it to be. So if you have any particular question, you can come to us can approach us, and we can have we can discuss about this a bit more further in details. Thank you.
Right, thank you. Difficult question, I know.
Yeah.
Maybe the next question, you can relax or ask the next question to Freddie, really. Because you see, there's two ways of doing this. I think this question is stating, right? A, I create a national association to take care of cybersecurity, or I do a industry-specific one first, grow small pockets, and then later harmonize to form a national one. Freddie, in your view, because just to mention, actually, we came through that path before. Before AiSP was formed, I think Freddie will recall the various acronyms that is being used. There's many different parties that was trying to formate information security, cybersecurity, IT security. Yeah, there are different groups, all right? And ultimately, yeah, the government stepped in to harmonize. I mean, does that sound like a plan, or if you were given again back to the future type, okay, would you have done it one shot?
All right. So AiSP was formed actually through a merger of three, I would say, some of them are not associations. Like for example, Singapore Computer Society, they had actually a chapter back then. So Singapore Computer Society was brought in. There was this group called Special Interest Group. All right, it used to be a group of white hats, all right, coming together, and so they were also invited, all right, to form AiSP. The key thing was that it helped, all right, people to know that there is a single point of contact, all right, rather than to have diverse communities having their own initiatives. So today, but the thing is, there will be still other communities. Like for example, in Singapore, you saw on the slide we have IC Squared, you have LawSoc, you have SG Tech, all right, Singapore, yeah, which is actually the industry federation, all right. So you will still have them, but the important thing is that each of them actually would have certain areas which they focus on, all right, which is different from so it's very important that one of the things AiSP we have been very successful is that it's not about doing more of what others are doing. So when Steven came aboard, I think the most important thing we did, and I still remember, we went to his campus and we actually had a strategic meeting, and it was there that we told ourselves, all right, the next 5 years, what are the things that we did a SWOT essentially, all right. So what are the things that all these communities are already doing, all right? Then what are the things what are the gaps, all right, that is not being addressed? And so, like for example, ladies in cyber, all right, nobody is addressing it back then. So we said, all right, I think that is important enough for us. Student volunteer, the reason was because there was a very low take-up of cybersecurity. The academia, we went to talk to the academia about starting programs on cybersecurity. The academia said, what for? I can have more classes, but nobody will sign up for the class. All right, so we have to create that the awareness. And so now you see, do you know that, I think if I'm not wrong, I don't know, Steven can correct me, but the point of entry, the points required to enter into a cybersecurity course is now higher than even some of the other professions, right?
Yeah, actually, the points is higher for a time, but then because of the lack of talent, what happens is now the intake is bigger. So they keep a consistent quality, okay, yeah, but trying to get the funnel open bigger and bigger. Yeah, but actually, back to this point about small associations, if I can give my views on this, I think back then when AiSP was from 2008, there was no other choice. Okay, you have to start small and then consolidate big, because at that point of time, it was very fragmented. At today's day and age, that cybersecurity has already grown so large, all right? And there's so many activities that's going on already. Actually, it's the opportune time, rather than go through the same journey that we went through, all right, trying to build small and then consolidate, because then you see differences. It's one shot, try to work together with partners, AiSP or other associations, one shot look at the national level, because there's no need to recreate this again, because even in individual sectors or industries, there are already organizations or associations that actually are elevating cybersecurity in there. So there's no need to reinvent the wheel. We are in a very different place now. If we wait to start small and then consolidate, cybersecurity move very fast. Okay, it will be more difficult later on to try to consolidate. You may even start to form fractions where certain cybersecurity problems are isolated or siloed into particular sectors that are dominant. Then we have an issue, right? Maybe the next question, this one I can, again, is more on the status of the Brunei Darussalam Cybersecurity Association, whether it's established or not. And if not, who are the program members? Your plans for that?
Thank you very much for the question. This is actually the purpose of today's public sharing session between CSB, AiSP, and the stakeholders we've invited today. To answer your question, hasn't been set up yet. We are now trying to get more feedbacks, more queries from your side as well on how best to develop this association in Brunei. I think because we have a very, very good turnout today, I think once we get all your relevant feedbacks, then we will discuss it further with selected focus group as well after this session. In terms of proton members, I think we have identified a few relevant parties from different stakeholders to represent their industry as well, to give it a more holistic point of view on where they want to see this association grow in the future. Thank you.
Okay, just now the question was very relevant to the next poll I want to do. All right, so the next poll that I want to do is really on, will you get involved in the Cybersecurity Association when it's established? Okay, because as is mentioned, it's not established yet. It's going to get established. What is important, I think proton member plays a significant part instead of setting up the directions, so on and so forth. However, actually, if you can see from AiSP's the portfolio that I gave just now, the ExCo members, okay, or in this case, the proton members are just a very minute part of the entire ecosystem. It requires a lot of volunteerism, a lot of people getting involved in the association in order for it to be successful. So I'd like to pose this question now is that, yeah, will you get involved if this association was formed today? And how would you be involved in it? I mean, you can select more than one of these choices, okay, whether you are just participating in events or you think that you want to volunteer some of your own free time, all right, into that organization, into the association, whether you want your company to actually get involved, okay, to volunteer their resources and their time as well into that. All right, so just to get a ground sensing as well, because this is essential. Okay, when this data we have it, when the proton committees meets, okay, based on this, actually we can strategize. Even though this is a smaller demographic, but hopefully it's representative of what are some of the activities we should prioritize. Okay, because it's not going to be huge in the first instance. All right. While you are looking at this poll, yeah, I think very good. We know that we are going to have a high participation and many people would join. Half of you will volunteer, so very good. Look forward to that when we send out the chaser. Please volunteer for the association. We should have at least 63 people who will be volunteering. So that's good news for the new association. All right, so let's go back to the questions. All right, let's see. Anybody on the floor want to ask a question? It will be great to hear your voices. All right, if not, let's go back to the screen. This is the good thing and the bad thing about having digital platforms like this. In the past, when we don't have this, I'll be sitting here and essentially just hit silence. Then I have to come up with some jokes, ask the question, just this. Now I can look at this and go, yes. Sorry. When you say that adding a cybersecurity officer, will it provide, who will provide the cybersecurity policies, SOP, etc.? Again, tough question.
Oh, very, very tough question. The easiest cop-up answer would be the organization themselves, but I understand that certain organization doesn't have any experience in this matter. So the most best step forward is basically to approach maybe Cybersecurity Brunei or hopefully with the new association itself on how to develop this particular policy, because it's not a very concrete policy to say, because it differs from one industry to another industry. What's your interest might be different vastly from another individual organization. So at the moment, you can approach Cybersecurity Brunei or basically do some research at first. But hopefully through the association itself, with membership from various different stakeholders, we can have a good discussion on what's good in terms of what's the policy that should be implemented for the organization itself. Thank you.
Right, thank you. I mean, Freddie, this one is something that you have experienced both as a volunteer in the government sector as a private sector. Who do you think should provide all this?
All right. So first of all, there is the what I call regulatory requirements, right? And today you have your Cybersecurity Misuse Act. For data protection, all right, for PI information, you have your PDPA. I think your auditors today, hopefully they are covering in these areas. They should be able to tell you what are the areas you are conforming with. And if you don't, then what are the mitigating factors that you have to do? When the cybersecurity bill becomes, order becomes available, I think that is where then you will have to take it back and look at how you can comply, all right, with those requirements. So those will help you to shape your policies. Of course, I think CSB will also provide some guidance materials to you, all right? And so that can also be things which go into your SOP. The association definitely is very important because the association can actually do what I call workshops, all right? And it can be very specific to industry. So like, for example, medical, all right? Medical is different from oil and gas, all right? Oil and gas is just about making sure the oil flows. But medical is about, providing medical services. And certain things may work in oil and gas, all right? But certain things may not work in medical. And one of the things in the past I had this experience was that if you try to implement, fingerprint biometrics in the medical profession, it won't work. Because, in the medical profession, they all wear gloves. And to them, it's removing the glove means they have to put on a new pair of gloves. And every time, the screen locks, you ask them to do biometrics. But nowadays, there are other technology like retina and so on. Yeah. So some things, unfortunately, the policies, like I said, it's not, I cannot just give you a one size fit all. It has to be something that can be deliberated, especially in what I call a facilitated workshop. And the technologies can always bring the technology, but at the end of the day, it is the people working in that industry that has to provide that feedback whether that particular policy is sensible or not. The last thing I like to caution is that, okay, so in Singapore during the COVID, we wanted to go on digital payment, so that we don't have to use cash. And cash, as you know, can contain the COVID virus, right? So we wanted to go digital. So we had one of our senior minister of state, actually, he was visiting this particular coffee shop. And he realized that this coffee shop, the digital payment system always was not available, all right? There was this sign there to say, oh, digital payment system is not working. He knew the boss of this franchise. So one day when he met the boss, he told the boss, he said, why this particular outlet, your digital payment is not working? Is it a problem with the technician not able to solve the problem? And so the boss went to look into it. And you know what was the problem? It wasn't the equipment. It was the employee. The employee was reluctant to use digital payment because she was not familiar with the technology. Yeah. So what I want to say is this. Don't have policies whereby people do not believe in it. All right. When they do not believe in it, they will not support it. And so just like this case, all right, we had a policy of digital payment, but at the end of the day, you need to make sure that everybody is comfortable to use the technology.
I think that's a very important point, where the association plays a big part working in collaborations with actually the government on setting up on these policies, because as what Freddie mentioned, not only in those, I mean, even when you look at pen testing guidelines for banks, you can set that guidelines, you can force it down the throat, that's one way of doing it, but then you create a lot of displeasure, or you actually drive the awareness via the associations, do the soft touch approach first, create the awareness up and the acceptance before you implement it. So in this case, we have a more, a more adaptable policy that people will actually use. All right. Just whilst we are looking at this, I would just like to very quickly go back to the poll because, as mentioned, the new association will be small. It has to start from somewhere. And we'd just like to see from just now my presentation, I mentioned for AiSP, for example, we have the 3 categories of activities. Okay, advanced, which is looking at knowledge, skills. All right, connect, which is bringing up the ecosystem, getting everybody connected, as well as recognition. All right. Again, this one is something that y'all can rank in Slido. If I can bother everybody just to do this, what do you think that the association should focus on? With 1 as the highest priority and 3 as the lowest at this moment for what is required in Brunei. All right. So maybe while we are doing that, so you on the screen, based on this, I mean, if, from CSB's view, right, what would you all think as a good prioritization in terms of advanced I know everything would be good to have.
Yeah.
Putting you on the spot here.
Well, I think what the people answering number 1 is advancing cybersecurity skills and knowledge. It's important for us as well. Currently in Brunei, we do have a crunch in numbers of professionals. And I think with the association itself, with hopefully development of training modules, workshop, it can further enhance and get people more interested and invested in their time to develop their capability and capacity as well. So that way, once these people are well equipped, so they have basically places to go in terms of where they want to search for jobs. That doesn't necessarily have to be Cybersecurity Brunei, but other different association, organization as well, whether it's private sector or public sector. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I forgot to mention, Slido has another capability that you all may not have realized. Slido actually is able to predict the attentiveness of everybody here, whether the session is going southward. Now we already have 100 participants. We lost about 20 people. So means that most of you are looking forward towards a break or lunch. So what we'll do is now it's ramping up here. All right, let's go with a final question. All right, and then followed by a final poll. Then I think that we can end off the session because I think the final question is quite interesting. And I think this one only CSB can answer. I am looking at employing more cybersecurity professionals.
I actually said in my answer just now as well, if you pay attention, but no, we're always looking for new people as well in the future. I think once the cybersecurity orders, it has been approved, so that requires mandates for other organizations as well to develop their own cybersecurity officers. For CSB, it's always good to look out for new talents, but for organization as well, there are always new opportunity in different sector for cybersecurity officers, cybersecurity interests. This way, people would have a more different experiences as well in other sectors. Hopefully, within the future, maybe this can be materialized. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. One last final call to people on the ground. Anybody wants to go to a mic to ask a question? Yes, thank you. Also, this will be the first time in my career I don't have a physical question. If we have a mic to the gentleman there, please. Sorry, well, before he asks the questions, while he's asking that question, I can have one last poll as well, which will be a very important poll. Because just now I mentioned a lot of AiSP activities. So going forwards, we have a few days of focus groups, just to get everybody's view about what are the activities that you think, we should start with a new association, maybe in partnership with AiSP or the association doing it themselves. Just say which one of it you think is useful for Brunei, right? Yes, could we have the gentleman, if you can give us your name, as well.
Hi. Hello, I'm Fitri from BIBD. So my question is in regards to one of the things that you brought up in your earlier presentation in regards to indemnity protection for your members. So when it comes to lawsuit, right, you always measure due diligence of how well a person does their job. But in Brunei, we do not have any laws. We do have regulatory requirements So when it comes to, I think this is more targeted for CSP in terms of our local law. How will that be? How will we measure that? Or specifically, more importantly, what's the timeline for the order to be out? I know it has been drafted for several years now.
Thank you very much for your question.
Thank you.
The cybersecurity order is basically in the final stage of being enacted. We do have a couple of queries from different stakeholders as well on different areas that they want further clarification. This is mostly within the government sector as well. We're discussing it further with Minister of Transport and Communication, with AGC as well. Although there's no specific timeline when it's going to be enacted, hopefully within the next coming of months as well, this cybersecurity order can be enacted. And furthermore, we do have other different laws that govern cybersecurity in Brunei, not necessarily security as a whole, but we do have Computer Misuse Act. We do have communication, I think telecommunication, something along to that effect. So we have guiding laws. It's just a matter of this cybersecurity order will be more focused on the critical national information infrastructure protection, which empowers not only CSB, but gives some authority as well to other sector to be more proactive in maintaining their cybersecurity posture. Thank you.
Thank you for the answer. Actually, I helped him elevate or help him block some of this question for this particular case. It's not only the government laws that is important. A reason why we were looking at the indemnity is actually on the private lawsuits, because due diligence is always a questionable, it's a debatable thing that actually, give you an example, under a contract of service, all right, there will be liable damages. So not only you are prosecuted by law, but the company that suffered the damage, they want to seek to claim damages from particular individuals or the organizations. Now, organizations are easier, okay, but sometimes when the organization, they have more resources to fight the lawsuit, particular organized companies, right, will not target then the organizations because it's, I want to get some monies for my damages that I have occurred. I know fighting a lawsuit with the organization is going to be difficult. Now, can I target the individual? If I can target the individual, means jointly liable. All right, then I'll go after the professional to say that this is something that you've done. All right, I want to claim damages against you. At that point of time, this individual might be fired from the company, which means the company no longer protects this. And this is where our issue comes in. Because without this professional indemnity, without that insurance, this poor fellow can't even have the resources to fight his case. Correct? He was just sitting back waiting for this company that suffered damages. Because if you suffer damages, you have to seek a recourse. Correct? So this is what we are trying to protect. At least give the professionals a chance to put up his case. Okay, in the event that the company, you wouldn't say it's wrong. Company's interest is to protect the company, right? Sometimes they will put the professional out there, and it's not, yeah, it's just a matter of life. So yeah, it's not only the government policies, but I think it's important also for the individuals. And then hopefully with that, yeah, more people will join the profession, right? Because they now know that in case anything happens, maybe sometimes due to carelessness, not really negligence, at least they can fight their case, right? And this gives them the ability to. Now, thank you all for attending this session, just because we ran out of time, but the Slido post that you all see, this will be open for the entire today. So what you can do is continue asking questions, okay? Because as I said, we are going to formate the association. Some of these questions will still be very useful when you upload. And for you, all you might know, the new association might run a session like this to address those questions that you have posted. So it becomes a good starting point. Also for the post, I'm going to open up one post, which is the ability for you to give feedback and suggestions. So please also just answer to this poll after this session, right? Any suggestions you might want us to take in so that when we formate the association together with CSB, ITPSS, we can take into considerations your views. All right, so please continue going on the Slido. All right, with that, I would like to thank the panelists for your time and putting yourself on the spot for this question. And I hope everybody found this morning's workshop useful. I'm sure we have more of these workshops when the new association is formed. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
Syukur Alhamdulillah, kini selesai sudah majlis taklimat kita pada pagi ini. Kami dari pihak Cybersecurity Brunei dan ITPSS Sendirian Berhad berbesar hati mengucapkan ribuan terima kasih atas kehadiran tuan-tuan dan puan-puan. Sebelum bersurai, dijemput semua untuk menikmati jamuan hidangan yang tersedia. Sekian, wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.